Good afternoon and welcome to the National Press Club for our luncheon today with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. My name is Jerry Zaremski, and I'm President of the National Press Club and Washington Bureau Chief for the Buffalo News. I'd like to welcome our club members and their guests who are joining us here today, along with the working press and the audience that's watching us on C-SPAN. We're looking forward to today's speech, and afterwards, I will ask as many questions from the audience as time permits. I'd now like to introduce our head table guests and ask them to stand briefly when their names are called. From your right, Ron Bajans, Washington correspondent for the Kuwait News Agency. Lucy Morion, Washington representative for Reporters Without Borders. Ken Melgren, manager of affiliate relations at Associated Press Broadcast. Hiroki Sugita, Washington Bureau Chief of Kyoto News Agency of Japan. Donna Leinwand, correspondent for USA Today and treasurer of the National Press Club. Clarence Page, columnist and member of the editorial board at the Chicago Tribune. Dr. Kaveh Afraziabi, professor of international relations at Bentley College, author of books on Iran's foreign and nuclear policies, and a guest of the speaker. Skipping over the podium, Angela Greiling-Keane of Bloomberg News, the chair of the National Press Club Speakers Committee. Myron Belkind, a member of the Speakers Committee and the member of the committee who organized today's luncheon. Greta Van Susteren, anchor of Fox News, is on the record. John Allen, correspondent for Congressional Quarterly. Eleanor Clift, contributing editor to Newsweek and a regular panelist on the McLaughlin Group. And Tom Baldwin, Washington Bureau Chief for the Times of London. For nearly a century now, the National Press Club has brought the world's leading newsmakers to this stage. Yasser Arafat, Golda Meir, Nelson Mandela, and Nikita Khrushchev are just a few of the notables who have all addressed the world from the National Press Club. And today, we are hosting one of the most newsworthy heads of state in the world, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Here at the National Press Club, it's our job to facilitate the news, to help bring newsmakers and journalists together. That's exactly what we're doing here today. We're not endorsing anything the President has said or will say, just as we didn't endorse what Fidel Castro said when he spoke at the National Press Club. We simply arranged for this opportunity for President Ahmadinejad to share his thoughts with us. One thing is different and historic about this National Press Club luncheon. This is the first video conference luncheon in the 100-year history of the National Press Club. We invited President Ahmadinejad to join us via video from New York, where he is attending the UN General Assembly. President Ahmadinejad, welcome to the National Press Club.
خیلی متشکرم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful.
اللهم أجل لوليك
The President is reciting verses from the Holy Quran in Arabic.
مستشهدین بین یدیه. از دیدار با شما اصحاب رسانه ها
I am
بسیار
very glad
خوشحالم.
to sit down and meet with members of the press and congratulate the 100th year of your activities. And
من علاقه‌مندم در مقدمه یک
at the
بحث
outset,
مبنایی رو با
I
شما
would
مطرح
like to
کنم.
raise a fundamental question
شرایط
on a
امروز
key
جهان رو
issue.
ببینید.
I'd like to invite all to look at world events.
شرایط امروز جهان اصلاً خوشایند
When we
نیست.
take a look around us, we're not happy with what
هیچ
we
کس از
see.
شرایط امروز راضی نیست.
Indeed, it is the most unsatisfactory state of affairs.
سایه ناامنی، تبعیض و تهدید همه رو
Insecurity,
ناراحت می‌کنه.
discrimination, and threats of war and
جنگ‌های
security
پی در پی
concerns have affected everyone. Continuous wars
و همینطور ناامنی‌ها و کینه‌ورزی‌ها روح بشر را آزرده کرده.
have in fact hurt the human spirit.
من فکر می‌کنم اگر
I
نگاهی
believe
داشته باشیم به
If
ریشه
we
این
look at
مسائل
the root cause
کمک خواهد کرد
of some of these problems,
برای
we
ساختن
will be able to
آینده بهتر
think of how to build a better
و
future,
زندگی سعادتمند
a more prosperous
و برقراری
future
امنیت و آرامش برای
based on peace
همه
and
بشریت.
security for all humanity.
من فکر میکنم همه
I believe
ما
we all
باور داریم که میتوان
believe
شرایط
strongly that
بهتری
it
رو
is
برای
possible
بشریت
to
به وجود
create a
آورد.
better world for humanity
برای تحقق این هدف
and to
ارزشمند و
realize
زیبا
this sublime and beautiful
ما
goal.
باید تغییراتی در نوع
We
نگاه
need to
و رفتار
take
خودمون
a
داشته
look
باشیم.
and revise
یک-
how we view the world
من فکر
around
میکنم
us.
در ریشه یابی
In looking
مشکلات
for the
امروز
root
جهان
causes of the world problems today,
برمیخوریم به
we
انحرافاتی که
first look
در نوع
confront
نگاه به انسان
deviations
و
on how
جهان
mankind is viewed
و در بین
and
بعضی
how
از
the world is
سیاستمداران و
viewed through the
قدرت‌ها اتفاق
prism
افتاده.
and point of view, in fact, of some politicians and statesmen.
ما معتقدیم
I
انسان
would say
موجود بسیار
We
ارزشمندی است.
believe in the sublime value of humanity.
خدای متعال
The
انسان رو
Almighty
جانشین
God
خودش در
has
زمین قرار داد.
has replaced his position with man's position on earth.
و برای او احترام و
As
کرامت
his
رو پسندید.
representative, he gave dignity to him
خدا از انسان خواست که
and
تلاش
respect
بکنه
and called on
و
mankind
زندگی
to
سعادتمند
make
رو به وجود
every
بیاره
effort to move towards a prosperous life
و همینطور مسیر
and
کمال رو طی
to
بکنه.
walk on the sublime path that will help achieve it.
خدا انسان رو جانشین خودش در زمین
God
قرار
placed
داد
man on earth as his representative.
و برای
And
هدایت او
To
پیامبران
guide
فرستاد.
him, he sent his prophets.
خدا همه عالم رو
God
مسخر انسان قرار داد
Place the world in man's hand and help man control
و
it.
انسان رو صاحب استعدادهای
Gave
رشد یابنده
man
قرار داد
talents with the ability to grow those talents.
و برای کمال و رشد انسان هیچ
And
محدودیتی قرار
placed no
نداد.
limits on man's progress in that respect.
خدا انسان رو برتر از ماده
God
خلق کرد
created man above the material being
و ماده را در تسخیر انسان قرار
and
داد.
placed that material being into man's hands for his possession.
معنای این حرف اینه که خدای بزرگ
What this
انسان
means
رو
is that
تکریم
God
کرد.
placed man on
بزرگ
a
داشت.
high status
انسان در نزد
and
خدا
respected
یک
him.
حقیقت واحد
So to
است
God, man is a unified truth
و برتر از منطقه
beyond
جغرافیایی و رنگ و
geographical
نژاد است.
borders, colors, or ethnicity.
مخاطب خدا و پیامبران الهی
God
همه
and all
آحاد
his
بشر هستند.
prophets have addressed all human beings from all segments of life.
بزرگترین ظلم به انسان این
The
است
greatest harm to mankind
که او را از تحصیل
is
علم
to prevent him from
کمال
pursuing education,
بازدارند. او را از مسیر
to
درست
prevent
الهی
him
منحرف
from
کنند.
moving on the sublime divine path.
فطرت روح خدایی در انسان است.
Nature of mankind is endued with God's spirit.
روح خدایی انسان رو به
God's
علم،
spirit
به
helps man
حکمت، به عشق،
pursue science and
محبت،
wisdom and
به
love
زیبایی
and beauty and
خدمت
kindness and to
دعوت
render
می‌کند.
service to other
کسی
mankind.
نباید
That's what
جلوی
it
علم و
invites man to
تحقیق
do. So
را
no one
بر
should
بشر
prevent
صد
the
کند.
pursuit of science and
کسی
knowledge by
نباید
man. No
عشق
one should
ورزی و
prevent
محبت را
love and kindness
به
from
خشونت
flourishing
و
in mankind
دشمنی
and turn that
و
into
کینه
hostility,
تبدیل کند.
enmity, and all forms of grudges that we now hold against
کسی
each
نباید
other.
زیبایی در
No one
اندیشه
should distort the
و در
beauty of thought
احساس را از بشر
and the beauty of
سلب کند.
feeling and emotion from man.
خانواده کانون عشق و
Family
زیبایی است.
is the center of love and
پدرها و
beauty.
مادرها و
Fathers,
فرزندان
mothers, and
هر
children,
کدام مبدأ عشق ورزی
each
هستند.
are a center for giving love.
آرامش و سکون در خانواده
Peace and
است.
tranquility is based in the family.
کسی حق ندارد
No
این
one has the
هدیه
right
الهی را
to
از
take
بشر
away this
سلب کند.
divine gift from humanity.
نتیجه محبت و
The
عشق ورزی
result of love
خدمت
and
و فداکاری
kindness
است.
is the ability to render service,
نباید جلوی خدمت
to
و فداکاری
sacrifice
گرفته
oneself for
شود.
other people. That should not be prevented.
نتیجه محبت و عشق از
Kindness
خودگذشتن
and love
است.
also gives the result of forgetting about oneself
برای
for
دیگران.
others.
این جلوه‌ای از تعالی
This is a
انسانی است.
realization of
نباید
the
سلب شود.
sublime beauty of mankind that must not be denied to him.
امنیت خاطر و
The
آرامش روح
security of thought
یک حق و یک
and of
ضرورت است.
being is a right and is a necessity.
امنیت و اطمینان
Security
در پرتو خداپرستی به دست می
can
آید.
happen within the realm of God and the belief in
خداپرستان
God. Those who believe in God
خدا را به کمک و یاری فرا می
seek
خوانند
His assistance
و به او متکی هستند.
and depend on Him,
خدایی که قدرت مطلق
the
است،
God who is the absolute power,
علم مطلق است،
who is the absolute knowledge,
بندگان خود را دوست
absolute
دارد.
knowledge, and who loves His
خدایی که
beings.
از مظلومان
The
دفاع می
God
کند.
who upholds the rights of those defenseless
هر کس به
people.
چنین خدایی مؤمن
And
باشد
those who believe in this
احساس
God
آرامش می
will
کند.
believe in peace and will achieve peace.
هر کس رضایت چنین خدایی
Those
را
who
تحصیل کند
seek the approval of this God
هیچ ترس و
will
نگرانی
never
نخواهد
have
داشت.
fear or concerns.
البته رضایت خدا در
Most
اطاعت
certainly,
خداست.
to seek God's approval, one must follow Him.
اطاعت خدا یعنی
Following
رعایت
God
حقوق
means
دیگران،
to respect the rights of others,
یعنی احترام و
to
محبت به دیگران،
render respect and kindness to others,
یعنی اخلاق و رفتار نیک و
to
شایسته،
engage in pious acts and behaviors,
یعنی یاد خدا.
to remember God.
اطاعت خدا یعنی خیرخواهی
Following
برای
God
دیگران،
means wanting the best for all others,
امر به نیکی ها و
to
بازداشتن از
invite
بدی
them to
ها.
good and to tell them to refrain from bad.
ناامنی آنگاه حاصل می شود
Insecurity happens when
که یاد خدا و اطاعت خدا
remembrance of God and following
بشود.
Him is weakened.
وقتی عده‌ای
When a group
به حق خود قانع نباشند
are not satisfied about their
تجاوز
rights,
می‌کنند.
they will become aggressors.
و وقتی حقوق
And when
مردم
the
دیگر
rights of another group of people
و سرزمین دیگران
and another
و
land
منابع دیگران
and other people's resources
مورد تعرض قرار
are
می‌گیرد
usurped,
ناامنی به وجود می‌آید.
insecurity arises.
وقتی حریم شخصی افراد
When
شکسته
the
می‌شود
boundaries of people is broken,
امنیت سلب می‌گردد.
insecurity is robbed from them.
اونگاه تهدید با سلاح
That's when
و
the
سلاح‌های
threat
هسته‌ای
of arms
بر سر
and
افراد
nuclear
سایه
arms
می‌اندازد.
overshadows the tranquility that mankind
امنیت
had
سلب
before.
می‌گردد.
Insecurity
و اگر
prevails.
امنیت سلب
And when
شود
security is taken away,
شکوفایی استعدادها
the
از بین می‌رود.
talents are no longer flourished.
نشاط و سرزندگی
The
جای خود را به
happiness
ترس
and joy
می‌دهد.
of life is replaced by fear.
ناامنی مانع
Insecurity
حرکت تکاملی بشر
prevents
است.
man's progressive development,
ناامنی بشریت را از
and
بستر کمال
it
خارج
distorts
می‌کند.
man's vision from achieving its sublime path,
دوستان من
goal.
دوستان
My
من
friends,
انسان موجودی الهی است
man is a divine creature.
و استعداد حرکت
It
به
has the
سمت
talent
بی‌نهایت
to move
زیبایی
towards the
و کمال و
indefiniteness
جلال
of
را دارد.
beauty, of joy and
مسیر
greatness.
انسانی حرکت از
The human
ظلمت به نور است.
path is a movement from darkness to light.
حقیقت عالم پاک است
The truth of the world, of this universe, is
و
pure,
خالق عالم
and
نیز
the
از
creator
ظلم
of the
و
world
زور و دروغ
is-
مبراست.
is free of all forms of lies and deceits and oppression.
صراط مستقیم صراط
The
پاکی
right
است.
path is the path to piety.
دروغ با حقیقت انسانی
Lies are incompatible with
و
the
با
truth
اوصاف
of
ربانی
mankind
و صراط
and with the
مستقیم
adjectives
الهی
that the divine
تضاد
Lord has
است.
given us for humanity.
دروغ انعکاسی
Lies
نادرست
are an incorrect
واقعیت
reflection of the reality
و انعکاسی از اخلاق و
and a
رفتار و
reflection
ذهن دروغگویان است.
of those behavior of the liars and the way they think.
دروغ به ساحت انسانی و
Lies
الهی راهی ندارد.
have nothing to do with the divine spirit of mankind.
دروغ موجب انحراف
Lies
اذهان
deviate thoughts
و قضاوت‌ها
and lead to judgments
و تضعیف حقایق
and that weaken the truth
و انحراف مسیر انسان
and
هاست.
deviate man's path.
پس دروغ و فریب ظلم
Therefore,
به بشریت
lies
است.
and deceits are in fact a form of
و
oppressing
همه ما با
mankind.
ظلم مخالفیم.
We are all against that form of oppression.
قدرت‌ها و انسان‌هایی
oppression of
که
all
ناامنی را بر بشریت
Powers
تحمیل
or
می‌کنند
human beings who create insecurity and impose it on the world,
انسان این موجود الهی را از شکوفایی
who
و بالندگی
threaten this
باز می‌دارد.
divine creature and disable him from flourishing his talents,
و چه ظلمی از این بالاتر
commit the highest forms of oppression
که اجازه ندهند انسان
by
پای بر زمین
disallowing
مادی
that
سر به آسمان
man,
بکشد.
not allowing man to move from this material world up to the divine.
بنابراین
to the
از دید
heavens.
الهی و
So
انسانی
from a divine perspective as well as from a humane perspective,
ناامنی، خشونت،
insecurity,
ترور
violence, terror
فقط یک چالش و مانع
are
و امر ناخوشایند
all
و نقض حقوق فردی و جمعی نیست.
are not all simple challenges or perhaps one oppression or deviation from the collective rights of individuals and people. That is not just simply the case.
بلکه ناامنی
Rather,
ظلم به
it goes
بشریت است.
broader. That level of insecurity is oppressing mankind in its totality.
خشونت‌های قومی،
Tribal
نژادی
violences,
و
ethnic
تحمیلی از جانب
violences
زورمندان و ستمگران
imposed by the powerful groups,
یک ستم و
by
ظلم
the
بشری است.
oppressors, is in fact a form of oppressing mankind altogether.
البته ناامنی‌ها
Of
فقط
course,
ناشی از اقدامات
insecurity
امنیتی و
does
پلیسی
not arise only through
یا
security
تجاوز تبهکارانه
activities or
نیست.
through police activities or through indirect means, but
ذهن‌ها نباید آلوده به چیزهایی شود
principally the mind should not be marred by
که او را در تفکر و تأمل و
things
انتخاب
that
مسیر
prevent it
صحیح
from
باز
thinking
دارد.
clearly and finding the true path, the correct path.
ماده‌گرایی،
Materialism,
مشغول شدن به امور
hedonism,
غیر اخلاقی،
engaging in immoral behavior
ذهن و روح و قلب بشر را از
mars
توجه
the
به
heart,
پاکی‌ها
spirit,
باز
and thought
می‌دارد
of mankind and prevents it from thinking about pureness and
و مانع
piety
حرکت و
and
تکاپو و تلاش
prevents
می‌شود.
man's joyous movement towards
این هم ناامنی
progress.
ذهنی است.
This too is insecurity of a mind.
در تعلیمات انبیاء الهی
In the teachings
این
of the divine
موارد مانع
prophets,
رشد انسان است.
these are what prevent man from growing.
در این منطق
In this logic,
بی‌قیدی، اشتغال
there
به
are no
فساد
principles. Rather, there is a propensity to engage in corruption.
و همه مظاهر آن
And
مضر
all
به
that it
حال
represents,
حرکت
and that
بالنده انسان
all
است
hurts man's movement towards
و
the
شعبه‌ای
sublime
از
path
ناامنی روحی و ذهنی
and
است.
define a branch of insecurity of the mind and of the
و ما
thought.
با آن موافق نیستیم.
We disagree with that.
من
We do
فکر
not
می‌کنم
like to see that
برای داشتن
prevail, and I
دنیای
think
بهتر
that to have a better world,
باید نگاه به انسان عوض شود.
our vision of how we look at mankind must change.
نگاه به حقوق انسان،
We have to look at the rights of man,
نیازهای انسان
the needs of
و
mankind,
کرامت انسان.
and the dignity of mankind.
من فکر می‌کنم در
I
برپایی
believe in setting up
آینده سعادتمند
a prosperous
نقش
future.
رسانه‌ها بسیار
The
مهم
role
است.
of the press is very important.
رسانه‌ها نقش
The press
ارتباطی
plays
و اطلاع رسانی
a connecting role, and it provides
و ترویج
information
اندیشه‌های درست رو
and
دارند.
can serve as a channel for promoting correct thinking.
نقش رسانه‌ها در
The role of
انتشار
the
اخلاق
press is to disseminate moral behavior,
و نیکی،
to disseminate goodness,
پاکی،
purity,
صداقت،
honesty,
صلح،
peace,
امنیت
security,
و پیام‌های مثبت
and all positive messages that arise from that.
بسیار بسیار مهم است.
And this role is extremely significant.
و خدای نکرده در انتشار
God
نفرت
forbid they must prevent the dissemination of hatred
و ناپاکی و ناامنی
and impurity and insecurity.
نقش آنها بسیار حساس است.
For in that sense too, they play a very sensitive
رسانه
role.
ها می
The
توانند
press
صدای پیامبران الهی باشند
be the voices of the divine prophets,
یا خدای نکرده
or
صدای
God forbid,
بدخواهان
the voice of those who seek
و
the
ظالمان به
worst
بشریت.
and those who oppress humanity.
زمان می گذرد و به تاریخ می پیوندد.
Time will pass and join history.
خوب است که همه ما
So it is best for all of us
صلح و
to
امنیت و
seek
پاکی را
peace,
به یادگار
security,
بگذاریم.
and purity, and let that remain for posterity.
البته بعضی قدرتمندان
There
نمی‌گذارند.
are some powerful groups that do not
منافع اونها
allow
در
that.
تحقیر انسان
Their
هاست.
interest rests in belittling mankind.
منافع اونها در
Their
ناآگاهی
interest
انسان هاست.
rests in the unawareness of mankind.
منافع اونها در
Their
کنترل
interest
جریان
rests in
آزاد اطلاعات است.
controlling the free flow of information.
منافع اونها
Their
در
interest
تجاوز به
rests
کشورها و
on
ملت هاست.
attacking and aggressing other nations and the rights of other
منافع
people.
اونها در تولید
Their interest
سلاح‌ها و
rests on
بازاریابی برای
producing
سلاح‌ها است.
weapons and to sell those weapons and arms.
اما مسئولیت انسانی ما ایجاب
But
می‌کند
our human responsibility
که واقعیت‌ها را به درستی
requires
منعکس
us
کنیم
to reflect on the reality and
و
truth as it is,
پیام‌آور صلح و دوستی برای همه
and
بشریت
to bring the
باشیم.
message of peace and friendship for all humanity.
امیدوارم همه ما در
I
انجام
hope that we will
مسئولیت‌های
all
خود موفق
succeed in our
باشیم.
efforts.
از ملاقات با شما بسیار خوشحالم
I'm very glad to meet with all of you again today,
و منتظر شنیدن نقطه
and
نظرات
look
شما
forward to
هستم.
receiving your comments and views.
Thank you very much, President Ahmadinejad. Can you hear me?
بله.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. We have many, many questions, starting with this, which directly relates to your speech. How important do you think that the worldwide spread of Islam is to creating the sublime and beautiful world that you envision? And is there room for other religions?
ما فکر میکنیم همه مذاهب و مذاهب
We think that all religions and all divine religions have the same message. They all come from the same place.
اونها چند تا پیام روشن
They
دارند.
have several clear messages.
دعوت انسانها به
To
خداپرستی
invite man to worship God,
که ریشه همه خوبی هاست.
which is the root of all goodness.
دعوت به عدالت
Invite man to justice,
که تضمین عشق و
which
دوستی و
guarantees
امنیت
love,
پایداره.
friendship, and viable security.
دعوت به احترام و
To
کرامت
invite
انسانی.
man to dignity and to respect of mankind.
دعوت به عشق به
To
یکدیگر.
invite man to love the rest of mankind.
این پیام ها در
These messages are
دین حضرت موسی
embedded in the religion
و
of
دین حضرت
Christ,
عیسی
of Moses
و حضرت عیسی
and Christ,
و همینطور حضرت محمد
as
رسول
well
الله
as
موج
the
میزنه.
Holy Prophet of Islam.
پیامبران همه پیام واحد داشتن.
These prophets have all given the same messages.
پیامبران با هم اختلافی
They
نداشتن.
never had differences in that
نزاعی
respect.
هم
There
نداشتن.
was never a conflict there
چون منشأ اونها یکیست.
because their root goes back to the same
پیام اونها هم
reality, and their
یکیست.
message was the same as well.
اونها همه
Does that mean there is room for Christianity
All
and
believe in
Judaism,
beauty and
all that you're
goodness.
describing?
در جهانی که شما وصف
همه با هم برادرند.
they're all brothers.
همه یک چیز میخوان.
They all want the same thing.
عدالت و دوستی.
Justice and friendship.
و این مشترک همه
And
مذاهب
this is the common ground for all religions.
Yes, but do those
Pious
religions
people
have
no
a place in the
differences
world you
with
described?
another. آیا در اون
همه انسانند و
They're
محترم.
all human beings and followers of different religions, and all their views should be respected.
همه باید جامعه سعادتمند رو بسازیم
We should all build a prosperous community together,
و دست به دست هم بدیم.
and we must all move hand in hand.
این مسئولیت همگانی است.
This is a responsibility for all.
We have many questions regarding the Baha'i religious minority in Iran. Many of our questioners say that the Baha'i minority has been deprived of their human rights. What would your response be to that?
در قانون اساسی
In
ما
our Constitution,
مسیحیت،
Christianity,
موسویت و یهودیت
Judaism,
و اسلام و زرتشتی به عنوان
Islam, and Zoroastrianism are recognized as the official religions. When we speak of religion, we refer to divine religions.
در کشورمون بر
In
اساس
our country, we follow that law,
قانونی که بر اساس
a law that is based on the majority vote of the people.
The 2007 Amnesty International report on Iran said the following: freedom of expression and association were increasingly curtailed. Internet access was increasingly restricted and monitored. Journalists and bloggers were detained and sentenced to prison or flogging. And at least 11 newspapers were closed. Why?
من فکر می‌کنم کسانی که این
I
گزارش رو
think
تهیه
people who prepared the report are unaware of the situation in Iran.
کردن، کشور ما قانون حاکمه
In our country, law prevails.
آزادی در بالاترین حد ممکن
Freedom
جریان داره.
is flowing at its highest level.
شما می‌دونید روزنامه
You
متعلق به
know
دولت هم
that the newspaper that also,
به روزنامه دولت به دلیل تخلف
you know
قانونی
that a government
تصدیق شد.
newspaper was actually shut down because it engaged in illegal acts.
شاید روزنامه‌ای که دیدگاه‌های رئیس
اه.
دولت رو منتشر
A newspaper that was reflecting the views of the head of the state,
اما چون توهین کرد
but because it insulted a figure
و حقوق مردم رو نادیده گرفت
and disrespected the rights
بسته شد.
of the people by insulting a group at
البته
least, it
می‌دونید
was
ما
shut
الان
down.
روزانه
You
ده‌ها
know
روزنامه
that on
در
a daily
کشورمون داریم.
basis we have tens, many newspapers, or
اونهایی که مخالف-
dozens of
تعداد
newspapers in
اونهایی
our
که
country.
مخالف دولتن
And the number
ده
of those
برابر
newspapers
موافقین
that
دولت.
are against the government in place right now are perhaps 10 times larger than the newspapers that are
و
pro-government.
در کشور ما ده‌ها
In
میلیون
our
نفر به
country, there are
شبکه‌ها
tens of
ارتباط
millions
دارن
of
و
people who are
دسترسی دارن.
connected to the internet. They have access to it.
اگه منظور شما سایت‌های
So
غیر
if you're
اخلاقی
talking
است،
about immoral, like access perhaps to immoral sites,
شما هم قبول
well,
دارید
you
که
would
اون
agree with me that
سایت‌ها مضر به حال جامعه
that
هستن.
those sites are harmful
کسی حق
for
نداره از اونها
society.
دفاع بکنه.
Nobody can really allow access to those.
ولی مردم ما آزادترین و آگاهترین
But our
مردم
people
جهان
are the freest people in the world, the most aware people in the world, the most enlightened, so to
کسی که
say.
این گزارش رو
let's
تهیه
say.
کرده
So
اگر
the
در
person who
خیابان‌های
prepared this
تهران
report, I would
یا
say,
شهرهای
had he
ایران
had the
حرکت
chance
می‌کرد
to walk in Iran, in Tehran, and other cities, and visit them
و
in
با
Iran,
مردم ملاقات
and to really
می‌کرد،
sit down with people and speak with them,
متوجه می‌شد که مردم
would
ایران
have
بسیار
understood that
آزاد و
people in Iran are
بانشاتند
very joyous, happy people and very free,
و از همه تحولات دنیا به طور
and
لحظه‌ای
very
مطلع
much aware of all world developments on, as it continues on every minute, every second.
و در اظهار نظرشون هم بسیار آزادند.
And they're very free in expressing what they think.
شما دیدید سال گذشته در
Last
دانشگاه
year in the university,
یک اقلیت 100 نفره
a minority group of 100 people
در برابر بیش از
stood
2000 نفر
against over 2,000 people,
از دانشجویانی که طرفدار رئیس جمهور بودند
students who supported the president.
فریاد زدند و سعی کردند جلسه رو به هم بزنند.
They were screaming and they tried to disrupt the session.
هیچ کس با آنها کاری نداشت.
They were left alone.
و رئیس جمهور 2 ساعت با
And the
آرامش
president
نشست و
sat
حرفای
down
اونها
for
رو
2
گوش
hours and listened to all of them.
داد. و اونها همین الان هم آزادند.
And right now they're free. They're walking freely.
من فکر می‌کنم اون کسانی
I
که اطلاع
think the
رسانی
people who
می‌کنند
give this information
و اطلاعات درست کسب بکنند.
should seek what is the truth and sort of
من از
disseminate what's
از همه
correct.
کسانی که در این جلسه
So
حضور
I
دارند
invite
دعوت
everyone
می‌کنم
present
بیان
in
ایران رو
this meeting
ببینند.
to come and visit Iran for
آزادانه
themselves,
بیان همه جای
to
ایران
come
رو ببینند
freely and visit the country all over,
و با مردم گفتگو
to
کنند.
speak with the people there.
اون وقت
Then
دیدگاهشون عوض خواهد شد.
their point of view will change.
Two of the journalists that have been arrested in Iran have been sentenced to death simply for doing their jobs. Mr. President, can you give us your word that you will do everything in your power to keep this sentence from being carried out?
این خبر شما از اساس خبر اشتباهی است. چنین
This
چیزی ما
news
در
is
ایران نداریم.
fundamentally wrong. This is
اصلا ما چنین چیزی
incorrect.
در ایران نداریم.
This is not correct at all about Iran.
کدوم
What's happening?
خبرنگار محکوم به
Which
محکوم؟
journalist has been sentenced to death?
من متاسفم که از
I'm
بعضی رسانه‌ها
sorry
این اخبار
that
دروغ
some
منتشر
press here disseminates what's untrue.
چه اصراری هست که اخبار
Why
دروغ
should we
منتشر
insist on propagating what's untrue?
این با مسئولیت رسانه فاصله
This
داره.
report comes from
Goes away
Reporters
from the
Without
responsibility
Borders.
of the press. این در واقع
خب چنین خبری وجود
Well,
نداره.
this
کی
is
هست؟
incorrect. Who are these
مشخصات رو به
people?
من
Can you
بدید
let me know
لااقل
who
بنده
they
هم
are so that
مطلع
at least
باشم.
I can be aware of who they are too?
I will certainly do that. Moving on.
متشکرم.
Iranian women are
I would be certainly grateful.
Great.
That would be very helpful to me.
Okay, I've just been handed a report from Reporters Without Borders, and it names the names Adnan Hassanpour and, forgive me, this is a little difficult, Abdul Vahed Hiva Botimar.
اینا کجا کار خبری میکردن و کجا دستگیر
Where
شدن؟
were they involved in as a journalist and where were they arrested?
این چنین اشخاصی رو
I
نمیشناسم.
don't know people by that name.
من فکر میکنم اطلاعات
think
غلط
that-
بهتون رسیده.
What you received was incorrect information.
باید کانال ارتباطیتون رو تصحیح
You
کنید.
have to sort of rectify the information
همین
channel you
امروز
have.
روزانه بیش از 30
On a daily
روزنامه
basis, over 30
تمام
newspapers
صفحاتشون
currently
رو از توهین به
are
رئیس جمهور
filled
و
with
انتقاد به رئیس جمهور پر میکنن.
pages and pages of basically criticizing the president and the administration in Iran and even sometimes insulting our policies and what we do.
بدونید همه نویسندگان و روزنامه‌نگاران
All
از
the
کمک‌های
journalists and
بلاعوض دولت
newspapers
برخوردارند.
also receive the loans from the government, actually not loans, but grants from the government.
Okay, I think we should move on from that question to the following. Iranian women are campaigning for an end to discrimination. You have charged them with acting against national security. Some women leaders have been beaten and tortured. How do you justify such violations of human rights?
اینا رو میتونید بگید کجا توسط چه کسی؟
Can you again tell me where you get this report from?
آزادترین زنهای دنیا زنهای ایران
The
هستن.
freest women in the world are women in Iran.
بیاید ببینید زنهای ما در همه
You should
عرصه‌ها
look at our
فعالن.
women. They're active in every level of society.
در جایگاه‌های تحقیقاتی، در
As
مراکز اجتماعی،
researchers in social
در
groups,
دانشگاه‌ها،
in
در
universities,
احزاب،
in parties,
در مطبوعات و
in the
رسانه‌ها،
press,
در هنر،
in the arts,
در سیاست و
in
تجمعات
politics,
سیاسی.
in political associations.
زنان ما جزو فعالترین
They're one
زنان
of the
در
most
دنیا.
active women around in the
بسیار
world
هم آزادن.
and very free.
شما روز 22 بهمن بیاید ببینید
On the anniversary of the victory of the revolution,
20
22nd of
million
Bahman,
زن در
Iranian
ایران
calendar
تظاهرات
year,
می‌کنن.
over 20 million women come to rally
و الان
in
بسیاری
support
از
of the
مناصب رو در اختیار
revolution.
دارن.
And many of them hold key positions.
دو تا معاون رئیس جمهور
There are
از بانوان
two
هستن.
female vice presidents in our
در عرصه‌های
country.
بسیار تخصصی بالا
In very high specialized fields, they're involved as
بیش
well.
از 60%
Over
دانشجویان ما
60%
خانم‌ها
of
هستن.
university students are
و
female.
همینطور تخصص‌های بالای ما.
And especially in the very specialized fields, as
الان
I
زنان
said,
ما در
our
ورزش
women
جهانی
are
صاحب مدالن.
have won medals in international sort of athletic championships.
چه کسی این حرفو زده که زنان
So
در ایران
who
تحت
said that
شکنجه؟
Iranian women are being tortured in
من فکر
Iran?
می‌کنم باید برگردیم
Human
به
rights
همون
think,
organizations
yeah,
have been
we-
making those points for years. But again, let's move on to another series of questions. We got so many topics that we would like to cover. I'm going to try to move quickly.
بشری حرفای خودشونو میزنن. خب همیشه هم
Well,
دیدیم که
human
اشتباه
rights
می‌کنن.
groups say what they want, they say, and we
اونا
tell
باید
them that they're
استقلال
wrong.
خودشونو حفظ
They
کنن.
have to keep their independence.
Okay, moving on to the topic of Iraq. You recently said that Iran was, quote, prepared to fill the gap, unquote, as American influence wanes in Iraq. How precisely would you fill this gap?
خب اینم از همون تحریف‌های
Well, again,
رسانه‌ای
this too is one of those distortions by the press.
من گفتم منطقه ما
I
به
said
زودی
our
با خلأ
region will
قدرت روبرو
soon
می‌شود
face a power vacuum.
و ایران و
And
عراق و
Iran,
عربستان و
Iraq, and
کشورهای
Saudi
منطقه
Arabia and regional countries
می‌توانند این خلأ
are
را پر
able to
کنند.
fill in that vacuum.
و تفسیر اون رو هم بیان کردم
And I also analyzed what I meant.
گفتم ملت‌های
I
منطقه
said
خودشون
that
قادر
nations,
هستند
countries
امنیت
in
رو
the
برپا
region
کنند
are able to establish security themselves.
و نیاز به حضور
And they
دیگران
do
نیست.
not need the presence of others in the region in
این
order to
حرف
arrive
من
at
هست که به
security.
روشنی
This is
بیان
what I've
می‌کنم.
said very clearly and will say again.
من تعجب میکنم
I'm
چرا با
surprised
تغییر در کلام و
Why
خبر
the words are distorted
موضوع رو از مسیر منحرف میکنه
and what is said is sort of a distortion from what it was initially said.
What role then do you see Iran playing in the future of Iraq?
ما صدها سال با مردم
For
عراق در
hundreds of
دوستی و
years,
برادری
we've
زندگی
lived in
می‌کنیم.
friendship and brotherhood with the people of Iraq.
یک عراق مستقل
We
و
want an
مقتدر
independent, powerful
و
Iraq,
پیشرفته
a developed Iraq,
به نفع همه منطقه
which will benefit the entire region. That's what we believe in.
از ناامنی در عراق ما از همه بیشتر آسیب
We
دیدیم.
are the ones harmed most by insecurity in Iraq.
ما علاقه‌مندیم در عراق
We
آرامش
like
و
to
پیشرفت
see
باشه
peace, tranquility, and progress in
برای
Iraq
اینکه مردم عراق با ما
because
پیوندهای
people in
تاریخی دارند
Iraq have historical ties with us.
سالانه میلیون ها نفر از دو طرف
Annually,
سفر میکنند
millions of people from the two countries travel to the
بسیاری
other
با هم
country.
ازدواج میکنند
There are a lot of intermarriages.
ایرانیای فراوانی
There
داریم
are
که در
many
عراق
Iranians
متولد
who are born in Iraq
شدند و عراقی‌های
and
فراوانی
many
که در ایران
Iraqis who are
متولد شدند
born in Iran.
ما دو ملت به هم پیوسته
We are two
هستیم
nations interconnected.
و دوست و برادریم
We are brothers and friends.
ما جز خیر و پیشرفت
We want
برای ملت
nothing
نمی‌خوایم.
but goodness and progress for the Iraqi nation.
اما فکر می‌کنیم ملت‌های
But we
منطقه
think that
خودشون می‌تونن
regional
خودشون رو اداره
countries
کنن.
themselves can know how to run the affairs of the region
نیاز
best.
به قیم
They
ندارن
don't need a guardian from outside to tell them how to do it.
The U.S. military yesterday accused Iran of smuggling surface-to-air missiles and other advanced weapons into Iran or into Iraq for use against American troops. Is that true, or will you categorically deny this allegation?
ما اجازه میدیم ارتش آمریکا هر
We
چقدر از
will allow the U.S. military there to basically take confiscates whatever of these missiles or whatever of these weapons it claims it has or sees in Iraq.
علت شکست خودش
We think, in fact, the military should seek an answer to its defeat in Iraq elsewhere,
در سیاست‌های غلط
in the misguided policies that it
نگاه
has
غلط به
led,
مردم
in the
عراق.
wrong perspective that it has had towards Iraq and its people.
متاسفانه
Are those
اونها
Iranian weapons
Regretfully,
going into
they are
Iraq?
standing against the Iraqi people.
Are those Iranian weapons going into Iraq?
ما نیازی نداریم به این کار برای اینکه امنیت عراق امنیت
Because Iraq's
ماست
security means our security.
ما خواهان
So is that
We
confirming that
want
those weapons are
quick
going
say-
in?
ممکنه
خیر چنین چیزی وجود
Oh,
نداره
no, this does
یعنی
not
ارتش
happen,
آمریکا در
exist.
مقابل دو سه تا اسلحه شکست خورده
Are you telling me that the U.S. military is defeated as a result of 2 or
این
3
دو تا اشکال
weapons
داره.
here and there? There are 2 problems here.
No, I'm simply
یکی اینکه
repeating the
Looking at it
government's
like
allegations.
this.
رو
First
ضعیف
of all,
جلوه میده.
it undermines the power of the U.S. military by making statements like this. You're
دوم
actually
اینکه
saying that.
سیاستمداران
And second of
آمریکایی رو در
all,
تصمیم گیری
U.S.
درست دچار اشتباه می‌کنن.
politicians will not be able to make the right decision on matters
مشکل
about
ارتش
Iraq. The
آمریکا در
problem
چیز
of the
دیگری است.
U.S. military lies elsewhere.
Why will Iran
They need to change their methods.
Why will Iran not agree to a civilian nuclear partnership with other countries? Why must Iran enrich its own uranium when doing so raises suspicions that it intends to develop nuclear weapons?
اولا اینکه این حق
First
ماست
of all, that's our right.
ما عضو
We
آژانس
are
هستیم
a member of the IAEA,
و اساسنامه آژانس به صراحت
and
این
the
حق رو
bylaws
به
of
ما
the
میده.
IAEA explicitly grant us that right.
در ثانی 2 سال قبل من همین
Secondly, 2
پیشنهاد رو
years
در
ago, I made the same
سازمان
proposal
ملل
you
دادم.
just sort of referred to in the United Nations.
ولی خودخواهان
But those
استقبال
selfish
نکردن.
groups that didn't want to listen to it did not embrace it.
ضمناً چه دلیلی داره یک
And
ملتی سرنوشت خودش رو به
secondly,
دیگران
why
گره
should
بزنه؟
a nation tie its future to
آیا-
another group,
آیا
another nation?
دولت آمریکا حاضر بیاد
Is
با
the
ما
U.S.
مشترک
government willing
کار
to
هسته‌ای
engage in
خودش رو جلو
partnership with
ببره؟
us and advance its nuclear activities in partnership with us?
اگر حاضر باشن
If
ما
they're
هم
willing to
حاضریم.
do that, we're willing to do it too.
آیا حاضرن حقوقشون
Are
رو با
they
ما تقسیم
willing
کنن؟
to divide their rights with us?
چرا فکر میکنید دولت
Why do you
آمریکا که
think the
یک
U.S.
عضو آژانس هست
administration,
از
the
ایران که
government,
یک
which is a
عضو
member of
آژانس
the
هست حق بیشتری
IAEA,
داره؟
should have more rights over Iran, which is also a member of the
اگه قانون هست برای
IAEA? If there
همه
is
یکسان.
law, international law, it's equal for everyone.
چرا بعضیا برای خودشون حق بیشتری
Why
میخوان؟
is it that some people want more rights for themselves?
Bernard Kouchner, the new French foreign minister, recently said that the world should prepare for war with Iran if negotiations fail. Is Iran willing to go to war with the West to protect the Iranian nuclear program?
اولا که ایشون حرفشو پس
First of
گرفت و
all, he
اصلاح
took
کرد.
back what he said and revised it.
در ثانی آمریکا
And
و فرانسه که جهان
secondly,
حساب نمیشه.
the United States and France are not the world. Don't speak for
فکر
the
میکنم
world.
اساسا این نگاه
And
غلطی است.
fundamentally, I think the way, this way of talking and looking at things is
این
wrong.
خیلی بده هر جا
It's
که
really
انسان از نظر
bad
منطقی
whenever a man
Come over.
fails logic, when logic fails basically,
اون وقت تهدید نظامی بکنه.
engage in military threats.
ما زیر نظر آژانس کار میکنیم
We're working under the inspection of the IAEA
و
system.
فعالیتامون قانونی و
And
صلح‌آمیزه.
our activities are legal and for peaceful purposes.
ما یه ذره از حقوق
Would
خودمون
you
We
be
have-
willing to go to
We
war
don't
to
want
defend
anything
your
extra.
program?
ما فکر میکنیم حرف جنگ یک
We
شعار تبلیغاتی
think that the talk of war is basically a propaganda tool.
چه نیازی به جنگ هست؟
Why is there a need for war?
کسانی که این حرفو میزنن باید یک
People who
دلیل
talk about it
قانونی
have to
بیارن
bring a
برای
legal
حرفشون.
reason for going to war.
به چه دلیل
Why
تهدید
should
میکنن؟
they threaten another country?
به چه دلیل ناامنی ایجاد
Why
میکنن؟
should they create more insecurity?
من فکر میکنم مسئولینی که از این حرف
I think
میزنن
officials who talk this kind of talk
باید مورد
should
فشار
really be
و تذکر قرار
pressured
دارن
and warned
تا حرف زدن رو یاد
to
بگیرن
know what to say and when not to say
حق
something.
ندارن امنیت جهانی
They
رو به خطر
cannot
بندازن.
endanger world
و
security.
البته اگر یاد
And if
نگرفتن
they haven't learned the lesson,
باید از طرف جامعه
then the
جهانی
international community
تربیت بشن
has to tell them how to learn that
البته وزیر
lesson.
خارجه فرانسه حرفش رو اصلاح
Of
کرد
course, the foreign minister of France revised what he said, took it.
و ما هم فکر نمی‌کنیم
And
ملت
I
فرانسه
don't
چنین
think that the
ملتی
French
باشه.
nation is a kind of nation who would
ملت
want that
فرانسه
kind
یه
of
ملت
war.
فرهنگی است.
They're a very cultured society, a very cultured group of
یه
people.
ملتی است که با ملت ایران روابط
People
خوبی
who
داره.
have good relations with the Iranian people.
البته ما فکر می‌کنیم باید اجازه بدیم
I
تا این
think,
آقای
of
وزیر
course,
خارجه مقدار
to
بیشتر
give the
تجربه
foreign
بکنه.
minister to gain more experience in his new
بعد
position
حتماً
too.
حرفاش پخته‌تر
And then
خواهد
I'm sure he'll talk from a level with more higher maturity.
Very well. Is there any circumstance in which the Islamic Republic of Iran and the State of Israel can coexist in peace?
منظورتون چیه؟ ما نظراتمون رو راجع به رژیم صهیونیستی اعلام کردیم. من رژیم رو به رسمیت نمیشناسم.
Excuse me, we're
چون
not
بر
getting the
پایه اشغال و
translation.
نژاد پرستی است.
Excuse me, we're not getting your translation, Mr. President.
آقای رئیس جمهور ظاهراً انگلیسی به گوششون نرسید. اگر
ما این رژیم رو به رسمیت
we
نمیشناسیم.
do not recognize that regime
به خاطر اینکه بر پایه نژاد
because it
پرستی
is
و
based
اشغالگری
on discrimination, ethnic discrimination, occupation, and usurpation.
و دائما همسایگانش رو تهدید می‌کنه.
And it consistently threatens its neighbors.
دیدید هفته قبل به سوریه
Last
حمله
week or so, it attacked Syria.
و سال گذشته
And
به
last
لبنان
year, it attacked Lebanon.
و در آرمان‌هاشون نیل تا فرات هست.
And when they talk about their goals, they speak about taking over the area between Nile to through the Euphrates.
این یعنی اشغالگری و توسعه طلبی.
This is occupation and expansionism in the true sense of those words.
اونها بین مردم فرق میذارن.
And they discriminate between people.
مردم رو میکشن.
They kill people.
آواره میکنن.
They displace people.
جوانها رو در خانه خودشون میکشن.
They kill young people in their own homes.
چطور؟
How is it possible
من تعجب میکنم
to
چرا
recognize
اصحاب
it?
رسانه
I'm
اعتراض
surprised
نمی‌کنن؟
why members of the press don't raise voices of objection to the policies there.
Would you be willing to meet with Holocaust survivors who wanted to discuss their experiences with you, and why or why not?
میخواد چه اتفاقی بیفته؟
What do you want to happen from this?
I'm just asking the question that was handed to me.
ببینید درباره هولوکاست من 2 تا سوال مطرح
I
کردم.
raised 2 questions about the Holocaust.
گفتم اگر هولوکاست
I
واقعیت
said if the
داره
Holocaust happened
چرا
and is
اجازه
a
نمیدن
reality,
درباره
when
او
granted that
تحقیقات
the
بیشتری
Holocaust
انجام
is a reality, then why don't we allow more research to be done on it?
چرا محققین در اروپا
Why
زندانی
are
میشن؟
European researchers sent to prison
فرض-
when they question some nature or aspect of it?
اصلا فرض کنیم واقعیت داره.
Assuming that the Holocaust, well, the reality of the Holocaust is here.
ما از کشته شدن همه انسان ها ناراحتیم.
It saddens us when any human being is killed.
یهودی باشه، مسیحی
Jews,
باشه یا مسلمان.
Christians, Muslims, no difference.
اما این در کجا اتفاق افتاد؟
But let us remember then, where did the Holocaust happen to begin with?
در اروپا.
It happened in Europe.
چرا مردم فلسطین باید آواره
And
بشن؟
given that, why is it that the Palestinian people should be
و
displaced?
چرا اونها باید در
Why is it
جبران اون
affecting them?
خسارت
Why are they paying
سرزمینشون
the
رو بدن؟
damage by giving up their land?
چرا؟
Why?
سوال ما اینه.
That's what our question is
سوال
based
درست و
on.
روشنی است.
It's a very right question to ask. It's very transparent.
نیاز به ملاقات
It
نیست.
doesn't need me to sit down and meet with anybody.
گرچه ما از هر نوع
Although, of
ملاقاتی
course,
استقبال
I would
میکنیم.
welcome any meeting.
اما سوالهای من بسیار
But my
روشنه.
questions remain the same. They're very clear.
یکی از پیدا بشه جواب
And I
روشن
want
بده.
answers that are as clear.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes left before the president will have to leave, so we have time for just a couple of last questions. I just wanted to ask you, Mr. President, about your thoughts and your feelings about the reaction to your visit, to your proposed visit to Ground Zero and your visit later this afternoon at Columbia University. Why do you think both of those proposed visits have caused such controversy in New York City?
من سال گذشته هم میخواستم برم
Last
به
year, I
محل
wanted to go to
حادثه 11 سپتامبر
Ground Zero as well.
و علاقه من بودم که
I
با
was
کشته شدگان
Interested in
اعلام همدردیم کنم و
expressing
احترام
my
بذارم
sympathy to the victims of that tragedy.
و البته فکر میکنم
And I think
وظیفه همه
that
ماست
it is the responsibility
که
of
ریشه
all
این
of
حوادث
us
رو
to
بشناسیم.
also understand the root causes of events
امسال هم همون
like
برنامه
9/11. And that was on my plan and agenda this year as well.
دانشگاه کلمبیا هم از من دعوت
Columbia
کرد
University has invited me to be there.
یک دعوت رسمی
It is an official invitation.
البته بعضی رسانه‌های وابسته به دولت خیلی
And there are
مخالفت
some
کرد
pro-government members of the press that objected to it
و
very
تحریک کردن
severely.
مردم رو
They've provoked the people,
و
so to
این باعث
say.
تأسفه.
And this is sad to watch.
من فکر میکنم این ظرفیت رو
I
باید داشته
think
باشیم
we
همه
should
حرفا رو
all have the
بشنویم.
capacity to listen to everything.
من به صراحت اعلام میکنم
I announce explicitly and clearly here.
با طرز مدیریت دولت آمریکا بر جهان ما مخالفیم.
We oppose the way the U.S. government tries to manage the world.
این روش رو غلط میدونیم.
We believe it's wrong.
میگیم این روش موجب
We
جنگ و
believe it
تبعیض
leads
و
to
خونریزی
war,
میشه
discrimination, and bloodshed.
و ما روش‌های
And
انسانی
that
پیشنهاد میدیم.
we propose more humane methods of establishing
ما
peace.
فکر میکنیم دنیا رو
We
انسانی‌تر
think
میشه اداره
that the
کرد.
world can be led in more humane ways than
در
it is
صلح و دوستی و
now,
برادری.
through peace, brotherhood, and friendship,
و در عدالت.
and through justice.
ما اینو به صراحت اعلام
We
میکنیم.
say this very clearly.
چرا بعضیا نمیخوان
Why
یه
is it
سخن
that some
دیگری به
people
گوش
don't want to
مردم
hear
برسه؟
anything else or people to hear another point of view?
این با ادعای آزادی بیان و
It
گردش
goes against
آزادی
the grain of
اطلاعات
freedom of
مخالفه.
speech and freedom of information here.
باید اجازه داد همه سخنها شنیده بشن.
All voices should be heard.
سال گذشته خبرنگاری از
Last
من
year, a
درباره
reporter asked
صحبت‌های رئیس
me
جمهور آمریکا خطاب به مردم
about
ایران
what
پرسید.
the President of the United States had said to the Iranian people about addressing them.
من استقبال کردم.
And I welcomed it.
گفتم ما میخوام
I
هر روز
said,
ایشون با مردم ما
We
صحبت
want
کنیم.
him to talk to our people every day.
هر چیزی به نظر ایشون میرسه
Whatever
به
comes
مردم
to
ما
his
بگه.
mind, he should tell our people.
و ما مردم رو تشویق میکنیم
And
به
we'll
شنیدن.
encourage people to hear what he has to say as well.
تعجب میکنم
I'm
در جایی که
surprised
مدعی
in a
جریان
place where
آزادی
they
اطلاعات
claim
هستند
that they have freedom of information.
تلاش میکنن صحبت
They
ها به
are
گوش
trying to
افراد
prevent
نرسه.
people from talking.
این چیز خوبی نیست.
That's not good.
Okay. In 1979, during the Islamic Revolution in Iran, Iranian students captured more than 50 American hostages and held them captive for 444 days. Do you believe this was morally justified? And if so, why? Or was it wrong?
من توصیه میکنم به گذشته بر
I
نگردیم.
propose we don't return to
اون وقت
to the past.
باید پرونده
because
25
then
سال
we'd have to talk about records of 25 years of measures taken by the U.S. administration inside Iran and that history as well.
از کودتای 28
From the
مرداد
coup in 1953
تا حمایت از دیکتاتوری
through its support of a
تا
dictatorship
تحقیر ملت ایران
and the humiliation of the Iranian
تا تلاش
people
برای تجزیه
and
ایران
efforts to divide Iran
تا توهین به ملت
and to
ایران
insult the Iranian people,
با بردن منابع ملت ایران
robbing Iran of its resources,
و دفاع از صدام در جنگ
and
8 ساله
defending
علیه ملت ایران.
Saddam during an 8-year war against Iran.
من فکر میکنم هر
I
چیزی رو در
think
ظرف زمانیش بررسی کنیم.
Everything should be examined with its own time period
به
and
جای
frame.
گذشته به
And
آینده
instead
فکر
of the
کنیم.
past, we must now begin to think of the future.
ما اجازه بدیم آینده
Let
روشن
the future
باشه.
be a bright future.
Last question is about the future, and it kind of reflects upon the fact that here in the United States we have very long presidential campaigns, and it would prompt an American reporter to ask, do you plan on running for re-election in 2 years?
نظر شما چی هست؟
What do you think?
I think I'll listen to what you have to say. That smile would seem to indicate that perhaps you're running.
ولی یه بارم اجازه بدید ما ببینیم شماها چی میگید.
Well, I want to see what you have to say for once, too.
I have no opinions on Iranian politics.
The press, if I ran and became as a candidate again,
برای اینکه هر روز اخبار
because
خوب و
every day you'll
صلح‌آمیز در اختیار خواهند داشت.
have news about peace, good news coming.
Great. Thank you very much, President Ahmadinejad, for joining us here today. I'd also like to thank National Press Club staff members Howard Rothman, Tina Creek, Melinda Cook, Pat Nelson, and Joanne Booz for organizing today's event. Also, I'd like to especially thank NPC General Manager Bill McCarron and our former General Manager John Bloom for all that they've done to make today's event happen. And thanks to the NPC Library for its research. In addition, I would like to thank Mohammad Mir Ali Mohammadi of the Iranian Mission to the United Nations and Javad Zarif, Iran's former ambassador to the UN, for their extraordinary efforts to make this event happen today. Thank you. We're adjourned.
منم اجازه بدید تشکر بکنم.